again the best man, the groom's brother. Please welcome Clark Ramsey.
Thank you. Before I begin, tonight's speech is being brought to you by hell of a good sour cream dip. Perfect for any occasion. Speech number 2. We're gathered here to celebrate the wedding of Sean and Ross and Alicia. It is with greatest pride and deepest pleasure to speak before you tonight. For those concerned, I'm not worried about the appropriateness of the speech, unlike my mother. That's gonna get old fast. No, I emailed the speech to myself and the NSA said it was good. For those who don't know me, I am Clark Ramsey, best man for this wedding. I emphasize best because growing up, Ross and I really didn't get along all too much, and best would have been about the furthest thing from anyone's mind. The best example of this was perhaps when I was 8 years old, and I was standing by the sink pouring myself a refreshing cold glass of milk from a half-full gallon of milk. Ross kindly asked, "Clark, could you please pass me the milk when you were finished?" Challenge accepted. I proceeded to drink as quickly and as much as my 8-year-old body could handle of that gallon of milk just for the mere fact that I could turn to him and say, "Here you go." Yes, I had won the day as far as making Ross successful and one step closer to being lactose intolerant. But by eating contest standards, I had lost, and not to mention the wrath of mother in the moments to follow. This is how it was growing up with Ross. Everything was discussed, everything was debated, and Ross was always the best. But it wasn't just with me. I can recall Ross taking Sean to court to settle arguments with the Honorable Arlene Wapner presiding. The TV program People's Court was a large part of our childhood. And in comparison to Ross, Jeffrey Feiger has good courtroom manners. But I will say, as we all grew up, the disputes became fewer, we became more mature, and Ross slowly realized I was the best. But then came Alicia. Suddenly I went from being the best to yet again the third wheel. Although at times Alicia might wonder how she becomes the third wheel with us three. Regardless, in a storyline fit for Grey's Anatomy, Dr. Ramsey and pharmacist student Alicia Rosen began a courtship that brings us to today. And I'm glad that happened. You look at them together and you say to yourself, "Ross, we're starting to get worried about you." It was starting to look like Doogie Howser was actually going to retire overnight to his home, type in a blog before the days of internet, and pretend to save lives during the day. I think we can all agree we still don't believe Ross is a real doctor. But through thick and thin, Ross and Alicia have stood by each other, and today marks the day when they start to walk step in step, hand in hand, dust to dust, ashes to ash. No, that was from yesterday's funeral. But I did know that Alicia was the one for Ross. When Alicia would agree to leave at 4 a.m. for the banks of the Red Cedar for an early morning tailgate, and Ross, assuring that we would not be late, would make Alicia do her makeup in the car's vanity mirror. That's true love. But when I knew truly that Ross and Alicia was the one, was when Ross writing prescriptions was suddenly very important to you. Nothing says I love you like a 30-day supply of Lipitor. But in all honesty, I knew Alicia was the run for Ross anytime that I saw them together. You were perfect together. You keep Ross in check, and I'm proud to have you as a sister. So in closing, I've written a poem for the occasion, as we all raise our glass. What we witness today, our hearts will always replay. The sparkle in your eye, the knot you just did tie, May our love for each other never grow dim, and may our Spartans always play with a vim. Only one thing is certain, one need not to define. Cheers, because tonight is going to be one hell of a good time. To Ross and Alicia.
Thank you, Clark. A round of applause for